Are you an indie podcast or content creator looking to reach a wider audience? Look no further. Introducing Podcastic, the ultimate podcast network designed exclusively for indie creators like you. At Podcastic, we believe in the power of unique voices and fresh perspectives. We're here to amplify your passion and creativity, connecting you with a growing community of engaged listeners who crave original content. Podcastic is more than just a platform. It's a support system built for indie podcasters, offering a range of resources to help you succeed. From tailored promotional campaigns to professional production assistance, we're here to help you shine. Our intuitive platform makes it easy for you to be seen and heard. We do all the heavy lifting for you. You just show up and create. Plus, with our advanced analytics, you'll gain valuable insights into your audience's preferences, allowing you to refine your content and grow your fan base. Ignite your passion, expand your reach, and thrive with podcasting. Visit our website at www.podcasticlife.com to get started. Podcasting, the home for indie podcasts and content creators.
The content you're about to hear is a part of a paid programming segment. The views, opinions, and statements expressed belong solely to the sponsor and do not reflect those of Podcastic or its host. This segment is for informational and promotional purposes only and should not be considered as advice or endorsement. Listener discretion is advised.
Good day, good people. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Lessons for the Journey. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and information on women's wellness, understanding our whys, and the lessons that inspire us to take positive actions on ourselves and our families and in our communities. Our topics focus on women's wellness, seeing through a metaphysical lens, sharing spiritual insights, highlighting journey lessons, and building healthy relationships. I am your host, Dr. Hetheru, and I share this space with engaging co-hosts, guests, inspiring topics every Friday at 12 noon for a transformative 1-hour experience here on Podcastic Live and Facebook. You can expect deep, thought-provoking conversations on self-discovery and personal growth, co-hosts and guests sharing wisdom and life-changing insights, a powerful blend of spiritual, metaphysical, and wellness lessons, and tools and strategies to help you elevate your mind, your body, and your spirit. If you're seeking clarity, healing, or personal empowerment, this podcast is for you. Our podcast is produced by Chantel Mosley. Today, our sub is Mark, and Mark is going to be our producer for today. And our co-host, Mahat Sabah, and special appearances by Dr. Calvin T. Mann. Today, we need for you to lean into what resonates with you. The podcast benefits you most when you are hydrated. Because when you are not hydrated, that means you are dehydrated, meaning that you are in survival mode. And so that means that your executive functions are secondary to those things that you need to focus on immediately. So we need for you to sit back. We're going to give you our call-in number because today's topic happens to be a pretty charged one, but we want you to look at this again through the metaphysical and spiritual lens, not just the emotional one. All right, and so our call-in number is 810-560-0658. Again, that call-in number is 810-560-0658. And so before we get started, we always do a reflection to set the mode and the mode of reflection for us. And so we pull what's called the my memos or me, myself, and I cards. Today, we are using the me, myself, and I cards. And so we're going to pull from the bag of thoughts, and we're going to share the card for you for food for thought to get us started today. And so my card says, how do you feel about your father? The positive, the negative, and the why. Again, this is a random card I just pulled out of. That is my card for today.
Wow.
And so, how do I feel about my father? My father was my guy. He was my friend, my guide, my protector. And so the positive things about him is that as I got older, I was able to go back and ask him questions about the things that he shared with me in my childhood to help me to understand better the decisions that he made, and also to understand that he didn't always know the right things to say as a parent and as a father. He did the best he could with what he had. And so the things that I might think would be negative about him, I had a chance to explore it with him as an adult and see, not from a child's lens, but see from an adult's lens, a woman's lens, a mother's lens, a daughter's lens. And it gave me a lot more deeper insight, not only to my father, but to men in general. And so that is my card. Again, how do you feel about your father, the positive and the negative? Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Right. Mark, you wanna share your card?
Okay, I'll share mine. What is your definition of being judgmental? Do you have judgments about anyone or anything? Well, yes. I mean, being judgmental is, I would define it as just having an opinion about something or someone, you know, and they say, you know, we shouldn't judge, but we all judge, you know. I mean, to an extent. I mean, even when you go on Facebook and you like a picture, you're judging, or you know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, and do I have any judgmental thoughts about anyone or anything? I do. I mean, even like with just recently with the pastor and his wife with the dress.
Oh, okay.
You know, so, yeah, we all judge that, you know.
Right.
Probably, you know, so yeah, I judge. Yeah, so yeah, we are all in a sense judgmental.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you? What's your card?
Okay, so mine says, do you feel worthy to be loved? Why or why not?
Wow.
Of course I'm going to say yes.
Right.
Why would I not? But you know what's interesting? Do you feel worthy to be loved by other people, or do you feel worthy to love yourself? So other people, yes. Do I feel that I fully love myself based upon some of the choices that I make sometimes? And, you know, I've brought this up several times in the podcast where I can do better with my exercising. You know, those are examples of self-love. Having more me time, more fun time, creating the balance, that's self-love. So worthy from other people, absolutely. I need to work on it for myself? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so our the question that we're putting on the table to set off the topic, which is how women destroy good men. And so another way to get out of the emotional state and into a state of really more deeper thought and looking at this from a deeper lens. The question is, what happened the last time you paused before you reacted to your son or a man? What happened the last time you paused? I'm pitching this to you first, Mahat.
Well, I have learned and I've learned to not respond instantly. My children, my sons are very grown, and so I've had a lot of time to come up with more positive ways to respond to them. You know, when you have children, they know how to bring the best and the worst out of you. And so they know your triggers, and they know when to trigger you. And then, but when you realize that they're triggering you intentionally, then you choose to respond differently so that you're not reacting or responding to the trigger. And so that's something that took time when I finally realized that that's what was going on. Maybe it's a cry for attention. When you have more than one child, they're always competing against each other. You know, you put one more sweet pea on his plate than you did on mine. His piece of chicken is a fraction of an inch bigger than mine. You know, they're always competing with each other. So they have ways to as mother say, make you go there. Mm-hmm. And so I've taught myself to not react negatively, but to listen to what they said, process it, see if it needs to be responded to, and determine how I need to respond to. Sometimes I respond in humor, even if it's something sensitive, because I know that there's a little something else going there as well. But how women respond to men, and we see it all the time, I don't think women realize the impact that they can make on a man, and especially as a mother on your sons.
Right.
Have no clue. When you look at them or say things demeaning to them, you don't realize that it cuts them to their core.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So I've learned to not do that. So.
Awesome. And so we're posing this question out to our listeners and viewers too. The question is, what happened the last time you paused before you reacted to your son or a man? Call in. The number is 810-560-0658. So if you want to comment on our opening question, please feel free to make that call and join us and share your thoughts on this topic. And we're going to keep moving. So for me, it's different for my husband and my son. So for my husband, I pause. I do take the pause before I react, because I know, especially if it's something that's triggering, that I'm going to react versus respond. And with my son, I will have a tendency to respond and then react. And so I have to make sure that I'm still working with it, on that with my son. I'm clear on my husband that I'm not just going to say whatever is at the top of my head or just, react to him. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit back for a minute and say, I heard you, let me think about it. I'll give him the warning. If it's really triggering, I just go silent before I say anything or do anything. And so I'm still balancing that out with my son. He's 18, so it's really easy for him to say something or do something that's triggering or annoying. And so, I do say something first. That is my first mom instinct. It's not my first wife instinct. So, or my first relationship instinct. So I'm still working on that and making sure that I can, I don't say anything negative as far as my son is concerned. I might respond, but I don't respond with something negative. And I never call him names or anything like that. So that takes some time. So
I want to add something to I want to pose a question, because this came up. And that is something that we do. Mm-hmm. Is respond differently based upon who that man is. Mm-hmm. Why is the response different between the husband or your significant other than your son? It should be the same.
Oh, absolutely. It should be the same.
So why do you think that women respond differently to the man in their life than they do their child who's going to be a man and be somebody's man one day?
Absolutely. And we are going to talk. We had that actually in our conversation. Okay. So again, if you're out there, you want to respond to this particular question. Our opening question is, what happened the last time you paused before you reacted to your son or a man? And that number is 810-560-0658. So our overview for our topic for today, which is how women destroy good men, we are going to start this conversation just with the definition of what we mean by destroy, or what is meant by the term destroy. And this is according to the Oxford Dictionary. It says it means to put an end to the existence of something by damaging or attacking it, and or ruin someone, it's just in parentheses, someone, emotionally or spiritually. We know that there are layered dynamics when it comes to relationships between men and women, and we just talked about one level of it. Today, we want to look deeper beyond the surface for our whys and how to reflect, undo, and reset our old habits and ways of being. We want to discuss the physical and spiritual outlook to bring our relationships back into balance for this next chapter of living. So we don't look at this as just the new year. This is the next new chapter of living. And so the research and expert analysis highlight the following 3 areas as significant contributors to relationship breakdown, especially with men. And so if you're out there listening, here's some good food for thought. One of the ways that we undermine him or destroy good men is undermining his sense of value. Women are often aware of the deep physical and spiritual power of their words. Those who are aware and still use them as weapons do not really understand the deep harm they cause to a man. Keeping aware that both boys and men hear the words of women, mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, teachers, and those in their community. We got a caller? All right.
Yes.
Hi, you listening? You responding to the question or the topic?
Actually, the topic. My name is Larissa.
Hi. Okay, so our conversation is around how women destroy good men. What are your thoughts?
I feel like immaturity. When a woman attacks a man, basically bringing him down mentally. A lot of men are mentally strong. So in order to use a tactic against him, they normally attack his strength and his thoughts. I mean, we know that from the Bible. So I think that is how a woman can damage a man if he's not mentally sound, and she don't have any words to be an encouragement to him, basically.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that insight. That level of maturity it speaks volumes, right? Both for him and for her. We are in a season as women have been called to really to rise, to thrive in ways that we have not before. And so thank you for sharing that and giving us some insight on ways that we can thrive and rise is increase our level of maturity as one of them. So thank you for the insight.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And so, and speaking of that, thanks for that. We can easily speak and react in a way that can lower a man's self-esteem and lead to chronic anxiety or depression. Unsolicited advice or questioning a partner's choices without proper validation can also make them feel inadequate, fragile, and even inferior. This plays out in a number of ways. These are just a few that we see, and we're going to kind of, if you have some comment or feedback, please do. That some of the ways that we do it is through persistent criticism. Persistent criticism. You're not doing this right. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Mark is shaking his head in the studio. Just what you say. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Childhood,
right.
Yeah,
Usually the words start in his childhood to control him. Absolutely. And that's kind of what my aunt talked about. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into that too. Mockery is another way that we also start this process of undermining his sense of value. Mockery, making fun, laughing when something happens or something that might, there are a number of ways that we do that. And I'm sure if you're out there listening, there are ways that women have mocked men. It could be in their relationship. It could be in their sexual relationship. It could be in their finances. Well, that's why I make more money than you. Or, just saying things like that is forms of mockery. And even the next one is belittling him, how we belittle him. Ma, do you have any thoughts on these?
I've seen this in probably all the men that I know. I don't know. Okay, there also is to not acknowledge their achievements can be, it can undermine his sense of value as well. What they say, hurt people hurt other people. And the only reason you want to hurt somebody is because you've got some hurt within you, and so you want to outpicture that on somebody else. But every man I know has been through this because they've shared that. And it is, I think women look at men as being, what's the word I want? Like steel, like made of steel, like they can't hurt. Because they've been trained to not show their emotions. And so they feel that they could just launch off on them, and it doesn't really bother them. It bounces off because men don't necessarily respond like that or respond right away. And so, again, this is, let's see, persistent criticism, mockery, belittling him. Emotional manipulation.
That lack of accountability when you said not acknowledging the things that he does well or those things that he brings to the table. For me, that's lacking accountability. And then emotional manipulation, really is playing on, knowing that you can play on somebody's emotions. So if you know that somebody is sensitive to certain things and you like, well, or say there's another child involved, right? Well, you didn't do it for my child. I know you're not going to do it for yours. Like doing things like that, using certain circumstances against him and making it where you feel like he has to choose between one or the other. It's either you or the job. It's either your child or my child. It's either them or us. Those are ways that we use emotional manipulation. And it's not that when you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to emotionally manipulate him. No, you're using the tools and the habits that you've gotten used to using. And this is so when we talk about how women destroy good men, I don't believe that it is necessarily always intentional. I think it is just the habits. I think it is just the ways of being that we've gotten used to, and whatever we wanted to get from that or didn't want to get to that, we just keep repeating because we don't have new tools. We don't have new information and insight. And really that's what our Lessons for the Journey is about. We want you to have new tools. We want you to have a different lens to look at things. That's why we talk about the metaphysical lens, the spiritual lens, because we are both physical and spiritual. And anything that you do is going to be physical. It is also going to be spiritual. And these are laws, right? These are universal laws. That the law of correspondence, for example, right? As above, so below. As within, so without. And so if you're not, the things that you are doing and how you are doing them are ways of being. I've always been this way. When you can say, this is just the way I am, this is your way of being. It doesn't make it the best way to be. It just means that you've gotten in the habit and your mind has allowed you to process things this way. And so today we are talking about, so we bring it to the surface so that you can have a deeper understanding of what to do now, how to fix it, how to reset, because you do not need to live this way in your new chapter. We can stop destroying men.
School, when you're coming up to, when you're in school, that might not be your background at home, but when you get in school, you're influenced by all kinds of people. And so girls learn how to do manipulative things, whether to get attention of a boy or get whatever it is that she wants from him. She learns how to be manipulative from the get-go. And so if she doesn't have anything to counter that, so if you don't have a woman at home or women at home that can guide you in the proper way, it just compounds itself when they get in school, in elementary and junior high and then high school. And then in college, by the time you get to college, those things are already set in stone. And so it starts at a younger age, and also with the teachers, having female teachers, which there's been, I don't know what the percentage of, but it's probably, when I think back to it, about 98% of my teachers from elementary to college were females. And so they can teach out of their hurt as well, belittling the boys. I know some men that has happened to, and it has stunted them to this day.
Absolutely. I do want to add this as one of the ways that we devalue his sense of self, is rejecting these three things, which are really important qualities that men are that are innate in men. One is his problem solving. Two, his ability to protect, and three, his ability to provide. when you attack those three things, one of those three things or all of those three things, it does decrease his sense of value. Mark is nodding in his head. So
I mean, so many women need to be listening to this right now, for real. Because this is real because I see it and hear it all the time. And, I'm going to take this video. I'm going to send it to a couple people.
Well, awesome. Thank you, because we are about the lessons and insights that bring us into our wholeness, that bring us into our balance. So we hope you're out there listening. Give us a call if something resonates with you at 810-560-0658. Okay, and so I want to talk a little bit just about how the physical component of it and the spiritual component of it. So the physical component is that it can hurt. It leads to hurt feelings, but it also leads into violence. So we're talking about the physical ways that devaluing him and his sense of self can play out in the physical. And so can you think of other ways that it plays out in physical, Ma?
But for being devalued, his lack of being present, his lack of fully expressing himself, his work ethics. If he's being devalued, then he might not think he's capable of doing certain things. And so it will look like he's incompetent, but that's not necessarily the case. Maybe he's not being valued. Maybe he has not been valued all his life. So that had he been valued, you would be able to see the richness in him. You'd be able to see all of his capabilities and to be magnified, to see his brilliance. But he's not. And so it shows up in those ways. If he's not valued, then if he's beat down when he speaks or devalued when he says something, you don't value his opinion, he's going to learn to not say anything or not say anything to you. And then you want to fuss when he doesn't talk to you. Well, why should he?
Right.
So
that's good.
The list goes on and on and on.
It absolutely does. And so these are some of the consequences, right? And so when we think about consequences and we look at this in the spiritual way, it unlocks the karma and the universal laws of cause and effect. Just like you said, because I have not been valued, then I do not bring value to the relationship or to the circumstance or to the finances or to the household or to the intimacy, which is where we see it, a lot, the lack of intimacy with our men, because it was something that caused that behavior or that way of being. Were you part of that cause, or do you perpetuate that cause? And so the law says that if you plant that seed, that seed is going to be harvested. So if you plant the idea that he has low value or that he is, and this is for our men and our boys, keep that in mind, that if you plant that seed, that is what's going to show up in your household. That's what's going to show up in your relationship. Those seeds are real. That's why you don't see them when you put a seed in the ground. When you plant the seed in the ground, you don't see the harvest right away. But it does eventually show up. It's going to grow. You want it to grow good seed. And then also reciprocity. What you give, you expect to get in return. So if you're giving all harshness and criticism, expect to get that back. It may not necessarily come from him. It may come from him because that shows up in arguing and fighting and discourse and chaos in your home and in your life. It may show up that way, but also it may show up outside of you. So not just in your home relationship, but then men in the workplace, men at the supermarket, men at the coffee house or the nightclub or wherever you might frequent. It's going to show up because it has to, because that's what you're putting out there. And then lastly, really looking at what you want to have return back to you. Be intentional about that so that you can make sure that what comes back to you is what you want. And that's what you want from a good man. So any thoughts for that, Ma?
You know what? What popped in my mind, well, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that when it comes to intimacy and communication, a man is not going to talk to you if he doesn't trust you. So if he can't trust you with his heart, he's not going to give it to you. He'll give you a piece of it here and there, but you won't get all of it. And so be that solid foundation. Be that, and even your sons. If your sons know that they can trust you with their everything, they're going to give you their everything. If a man can trust you with his everything, he will give you his heart. And when you have his heart, everything that you desire, he will do whatever he needs to do to try and attempt to give that to you. Mm-hmm. And so instead of working on trying to fix him, fix you.
For sure. You mind starting part 2?
Encouraging overdependence in boys. Oh, this is interesting.
Right.
As mothers and sometimes mates, we become smotherers. We can be overprotective or helicopter parents that attempt to shield our sons. We often think that we are protecting them from choosing poorly, failure, and or making mistakes. And so we think for them. By thinking for them, we prevent them from developing essential life skills like resilience, problem solving, and independence. For sons, this can result in them becoming boy men who struggle with decision making, lack confidence in their abilities, and remain emotionally or socially dependent on their mothers. We begin to destroy the man when he is a boy. Thinking for our boys could be answering for them, constantly correcting him after he expresses himself, to do what you think he should have said, to what you think he should have said or meant. Number 2 is doing everything for our boys, including schoolwork and chores. It removes the necessary challenges from his path. Number 3, allowing him to overly indulge in video games, which is isolation. It takes residence in fantasy and virtual reality, escapism, and expands violence reactions. And 4, he keeps company with his mom most. Often where she goes is her companion, her man of the house, and denies access to other men, including mentors, coaches, and even fathers.
Wow. So.
Oh boy, this is so major.
Wow, for sure. Okay, we got a comment here. Do you feel like we unintentionally destroy good men by trying to raise strong men?
Yeah, I do.
That's powerful, right?
Yeah, I do.
Because as women, we think and believe that we are raising men, strong men, men in general. That's not our role as a woman and a mother. Our role is to care for them. They have a father to model. If you don't have a father and a man to model, then the model that they see is the mother. And so if they're modeling us and our behavior, how can you produce a man from modeling the mother? Mm-hmm. It's a totally different role. And then we get, we start to get insecure sometimes as mothers when men outside have an opportunity to groom and shape them. We have to keep putting our boys in front of men, in spite of what we feel in relationships. And I'm not talking, I still mean, you have to do your due diligence, that you don't just put them in environments that are not safe for them. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your ability to trust the process, even if it's not necessarily the man, trust the process enough to release him into another hand of a man. Mm-hmm. That's coaches, mentors, and then we want to determine the parameters. And I'm speaking for myself, right? For my son as he grew up in his 18 years, but the parameters around who he needs to be. He needs to be, a star player. And that's when I'll trust the coach to mentor my son. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe he needs to be on the bench. Maybe he doesn't go in the game, but he needs to practice. That is still real value in shaping. We will yell and scream about, no, he should be out there on the field and he should be doing this and doing that. And you're not a good coach and I'm taking him out of this. And, even in our mentoring program, there are mothers that bring their sons in for mentoring and then will turn around and say, well, he didn't want to come. He didn't want to go. Why are you letting your 8-year-old determine that he needs or doesn't need mentoring? Mm-hmm. Why are we allowing our boys to make those decisions? And as a mom, you have to continue. And these are men who are dedicated to mentoring. Why would you compromise that opportunity for him? Yes, it does matter how he feels. No, it doesn't matter what he needs. Because long term, if he doesn't have that man that is mentoring him, if he doesn't have that space where there are other boys for them to do the things that need to happen that we are unaware of that are happening because we are female, we are women, and we raise women. We don't raise boys, we care for them. And so if we try to keep putting ourselves in the space to be that masculine identity that he needs, he's actually just taking on ours. So thank you for that question, Chantel, about are we trying to raise strong men? This is not about judgment. Let me say that first. This is not about judgment, good, bad, right, or wrong. What we're talking about is a process. And are we trusting this process to unfold for our boys? Your thoughts?
There's two things. One, women raise their boys out of fear, especially in our culture. When your sons or your husband walks out the door, it's an unconscious fear that they might not come back or that you're going to get a phone call. So that can cause a woman to hold on to her child unconsciously because she's so deathly afraid that something is going to happen to him. When my boys were, I'm trying to remember the age, I think my oldest might have been 10 maybe, and their dad sent them to the party store, which would have been off of a semi-main street, to get him something, some junk or whatever. And I told him I didn't want them going down there because my middle son was 3 years younger than him. So I thought that, and especially in that particular area where that party store was, it wasn't what we would call safe. And so he sent them anyway. And I tell you, I was livid. I told him if they don't come back, I'm going to, I can't say that.
Right.
and I meant every word I said. I was literally petrified until they walked back into the house. Mm-hmm. As time went on, I realized that you have to raise boys in a particular kind of way. You have to expose them to certain things, and danger happens to be one of them. Mm-hmm. There was it was a documentary I saw on Africa, and they were talking about rites of passage. And so the men, at a certain point, when boys got to be a certain age, the men would take all the boys from the village and take them out into the wild. And they would circumcise them, and then there would be certain things that they had to do that only the men do, the women didn't know. So when the time came for for the men to take the boys out, the women were holding on to them, and they were just crying and flailing around, and then the men were kind of like, okay, can we go now?
Right.
It's like, come on, we have to do this. So a woman cannot raise a boy. A woman cannot raise a man because she's not one. We can raise girls to women, but we cannot raise boys to men. And being able to recognize that and place your son before a positive male role model and be very cognizant of who you place around him, what seeds that they're planting in his mind, because all of that is going to start to germinate at some point in time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very important. That smothering thing is fear. And she doesn't have a man, and so she's going to make her son her man. Mm-hmm. So we're back to emotional issues again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, and so looking at this again, if you want to go through the physical and spiritual components too, because this was really important. And it's some deep things that are happening, mothers, women, when we take this action. So she's going to share a little bit about that, the physical.
Okay, so the physical component is it slows down and limits the production of his testosterone levels. It stunts his growth. Consequently, increases the female mother's testosterone levels to overdeveloped masculinity, as well as interrupts the nervous system of boys and mothers, keeping both looped in the fight or flight hormones. Spiritually, it unlocks karma and universal laws of cause and effect, seed time and harvest and reciprocity. Explore how this action and or reaction returns back to you in the man that you want to have or the boy who doesn't become a full man you wanted him to be. Creates a cycle of men for the next generation.
You know, this is funny to me because we hear women say that there are no good men. Where are all the good men? They have to be raised. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They don't just automatically show up. They had to be raised. And if our boys are not modeling positive, healthy men, then for the next generation of women, they're going to be asking the same question. Mm-hmm. Where are all the good men? We have prevented them from becoming the good men. We have destroyed certain pathways that allow them to be good men. Now, they may grow to the full stature of manhood for some, but for others, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intimately, they are still in that immature space. Like we started off this conversation with our caller. That immaturity can be both on her part and on his part. Mm-hmm. We have to really be mindful. If you have thoughts and comments about this, give us a call. Our number is 810-560-0658. If you have thoughts on how we are raising our boys and how we can do, how we are caring for our boys and putting them in the right path of healthy men and even their fathers. There's something to be said about the DNA pathway from mother and father. Our children have both. It's not just your good genes, and it's not picking and choosing what those good genes are. It is if you can bring those two together or allow them to come together, the best in each one of us, let the son decide. Because it's already there imprinted in him. That blueprint of his father is already in him, and you cannot change that. What changes is what he decides to be as a result of the choice he's presented with. And, you know, and that's it. It can be really difficult for a lot of mothers to see those attributes in the father of your son or the father of your child, especially when this may be somebody who you want to be with, have a relationship with, or just simply had a child with because of whatever the circumstances of that intimate connection that brought that child into the world. First of all, spiritually, that child was meant to be in the world. It was not a mistake. It was an opportunity, and my aunt speaks to this in her work and her relationship first aid work. We are not victims. You want to share a little bit about that mm-hmm. and the connection?
This is kind of hard for some people to accept, but we are not victims. We chose, for those that want to believe in reincarnation, we chose to come here. We chose our parents. There's a story that I could tell. I'm not going to tell it right now. That my daughter shared with me when she was about 8 years old. She had a dream, and it talked about her before she came here and how she picked me. Mm-hmm. We chose our parents. We chose our significant others. Our children chose us. We chose all of the relationships that we're going to be in. We chose the people that we're going to work with. All of those one-on-one relationships. We chose all of those people for our elevation and our growth. And so when we have experiences with people, we're here to work things out. If it is the closest people to you, which would be your parents, siblings, and children, we have a divine connection, a karmatic connection and a relationship to work some things through. Some things we didn't work through in another lifetime. Some things we need to work through in this lifetime. And we're all reflections of each other. So what you don't like in your child, guess what? They are reflecting you back to you. What you don't like in your parents, they're reflecting you back to you. Mm-hmm. What you don't like in your siblings, they're reflecting you back to you. So at the end of the day, it's always a you thing. Mm-hmm. So understanding that your children, I always say there's no such thing as a child. They're just spirits in a body that hasn't fully grown yet. Mm. So when you understand that your children are, you're a steward for them, yes, to assist them in their spiritual growth and elevation. They don't belong to you.
Yes.
You are not to try and control and mold them to what you want them to be. Mold yourself to what you need to be. Don't try and mold other people, especially your children. Honor and respect their path. Honor and respect their journey. And they are here to learn and experience just like everybody else, and realize that you are impacting them. You are impacting those boys in your world. You are impacting the men that are in your world. If you go into a grocery store and a man opens up the door and you don't acknowledge him and you look at him with your nose turned up, that does something to that man. Mm-hmm. It takes another little piece away from him. So be respectful of everybody, but especially our males, because these men are going to be their reflections to somebody else's son. And we want them to be the best reflection, but we're a part of that. So that man that you're talking about, people like you, another woman like you, help to create a man like that.
For sure. And this is one of the important attributes that women have. This is what is a part of our power, our strength. That is why we are the nurturers. We nurture and cultivate seeds. And the seeds that we're nurturing and cultivate show up in our boys that then become men in the world. And so I think it's important as we take this journey together. And so as we move into part 3, we're going to jump back to grown men and talk about the loss of relationship and identity and polarizing dynamics. So healthy relationships often rely on the balance of complementary roles and identities. When one partner, the woman, loses their feminine identity to her masculine, she begins to assume the role of the male. This behavior shows up as her being more aggressive, becoming complacent with being alone, develop the practice of having men for sexual roles and entertainment only, asserts control as my way or my idea or no way. She withholds intimacy as a weapon. Often continual negative images of a man. Everything, there ain't no good men. They're all that negative talk, self-talk, and then increases interest in intimate relationships with women. And so instead of having a focus on men and working through it with men, you know, often sometimes they feel it's easier to then focus that attention on another woman and give and serve in that identity roles that we talked about just a few minutes ago. And so this is not about judgment. This is about how do we correct? How do we change the direction of our way of being? And these are some of the things that are the consequences of our direction that we're choosing to be every day. And so physically, women are often abused or become abusers. This is, again, this loss of identity. Women lose interest in being in the receptive, nurturing role, replacing it with controlling and an aggressive one. This position often leads to toxic femininity and a shift in the nervous system in constant fight or flight mode. This is where we see the angry Black woman or the angry woman or the aggressive woman that is often depicted. And then spiritually, it shifts the energetic inner balance between the masculine and the feminine, the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. It impacts the law of correspondence again, as above, so below, as within, so without. It impacts the heart chakra, that is this midsection in your chest, women, and the increase in breast cancers, heart disease for women and men, and also various forms of blood-related issues because it circulates through the heart chakra. And then also it looks at and I'm bringing the attention to the root chakra and the sacral chakra, which are the lower two chakras, the lower self, part of the lower self. And then we wonder why we have bladder infections, erectile dysfunction, various womb issues and diseases, why we have such dysfunctional sexuality and confusion in our sexuality, and or lack of boundaries in our sexuality. We also have and face childbirth concerns and maternal health challenges. all of that on the spiritual side of the choices, decisions, and our ways of being that we need to call attention back to, because we need to come back to balance. Those things are very clear indicators that we are out of balance spiritually and physically. It shows up physical, but it's also part of our spiritual being. And so these things are really important. I'm going to put that call out number again in case you want to comment on these thoughts at 810-560-0658. So food for thought. This is absolutely food for thought, and the importance of our identity. We were born into this purpose work. And are you maintaining your purpose? Are you using your thoughts, your words, and your actions to support the balance that we need to bring, not just to our own bodies, but our families, our communities? This is about us and the journey and the lessons for this journey. So I hope you are able to pull some of that good intention out of this conversation. Mont, you have something you want to offer about this third component of women?
One of the key words is love. To define what love means to you, if a woman is emotionally, mentally, and physically, spiritually balanced, she will know that she's responding, she's being nurturing to that man or to that boy from a loving space, not controlling, but nurturing, listening to what he has to say. When he shows area of weakness, giving him support. All of that's love. Women and mothers don't know their power, and I use that word because I can't figure out another word to substitute for it, because it is power. Power does not mean that you have you get free reign to manipulate and control. Women know that they can behave in a certain way and they can get a man to do certain things with their quote unquote power. That's manipulation. That's control. That's not love, and that's not being loving. So being more open-hearted, being more trustworthy, being more honest, more nurturing, more giving, but firm and have boundaries as well. Because you have to have boundaries when you're dealing with a male child, because they're trying to push the boundaries. That's how they learn. But having all of those things will help to nurture and grow a strong young man into a strong man. It also, when other women and other young ladies see that in you, they will learn what that looks like. You'll be a positive model and role model to the young women who are like, why is her man worships the ground she walks on? Her son just loves her to life. Like, what is she doing? Whatever that is, I want some of that. So they're going to start to look at her and try and emulate, what is she doing? Because I want that what they're giving her, I want that as well. Mm-hmm. So doing your inner work as a woman, doing your own self-healing and working on those broken places within you, once you start to fix that, then you can outpicture that to someone else, the men and the boys in your life. Because as I said earlier, hurt people hurt other people. So a woman that is hurt, that's damaged, that's wounded, that's angry, that's unforgiving, she's going to emulate that in her relationship, and she's going to raise that and put that energy into her son. So I think that goes along with some of these other things. Like you said, she's becoming more aggressive. That's that inner work that she's not doing. Mm-hmm. So that will bring balance to the whole. What they say, when if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. Mm-hmm. So what does mama need to do to be happy?
Right. And there's a lot of us say that we're doing our inner work, we're doing our shadow work, we're doing these types of things. And my hope is that if you are looking at the imbalances, if you are still on the path of believing that men, they're no good men, that is one of the areas that you need to do that inner work. Mm-hmm. That is the indicator. Pain and discomfort is the indicator of where you need to do the work. That is why it shows up, to show you where you need to do the work. That doesn't mean you need to be in the gym, more days a week. And that's not what that means. You need to do more journaling. That's not necessarily what that means. There are some real specific things individually that we need to do and work on. And they're showing up in dis-ease, discomfort, and in our chaos. When you start to pinpoint those things, when you start to recognize and acknowledge those things, you are well on your way to resets and healing. And so I want you to know, again, that you are both physical and spiritual. And if you're not addressing both, you're still out of balance. Mm-hmm. And so that is in your thoughts, that is in your words, that is in your actions. And just to share with you that the healing takes place in both. It takes place in both. When you heal, that's what the law of correspondence says. As above, so below. As you heal your higher self or your lower self, therefore your lower and higher self becomes healed. And for those of you who need support, this is what we do. This is what we do. I am Dr. Hetheru. I am a personal change coach. It is personal, and that change must come. It must come, and you do not have to navigate this alone. And so we have some events and activities and some ways that you can connect with us. My aunt has a relationship first aid, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how to reach her. Are you able to pull up some of the book club and those kind of things? We have a book club coming up, but also, tell them a little bit about what you do in terms of relationship first aid and how that helps to work through that victim mindset.
Okay, so Relationship First Aid is a spiritual-based program that I have, and I assist people in focusing on inner work, dealing with, again, the hurts and the pains and the unforgiveness and the grief and all of that, but it's done in an emotionally non-invasive way. One of the reasons people don't want to do their inner work is because they don't want to feel the pain. Well, this is done in a way to assist you in addressing those places within you that you don't want to look at in an emotional, non-invasive way. Eventually, you get to the point when you do the work, because you have to do the work. Mm-hmm. When you do the work, you're going to start looking for things within yourself that you know need to be repaired or need to be healed or need to be fixed, whatever word you're comfortable with. And so basically that's what I do. When you work on this in here, again, as she said, according to spiritual law, as within, so without. When your inside world changes, your outside world will change.
And so tell them how they can reach you too.
You can reach me at my email address is relationshipfirstaid@yahoo. Website, relationshipfirstaid.com. Facebook, Relationship First Aid. And Instagram, and I'm new on TikTok, Relationship First Aid. Keep it real simple.
Right. And so for those of you who are getting into readers, maybe that was your New Year's resolution, to connect to women in positive ways, to do more, not just internal work, but to read more and connect more. We have a monthly women's book club, and I call it Tea, Talk, and Transform. And it is the Lessons for the Journey. And we focus on a book a month. This month book is Love, Pure and Simple by Evelyn M. Bingham. And it's a collection of poetry. So we are starting this year off with a collection of poetry. So those who are poets, who like to share in the spoken word, who like to navigate life through prose, this is an amazing book. It is an anthology, actually, is what it is. But it's really such a good place to shape going into this next chapter living, because the sister that wrote it is a community mother. She's an elder, and this is her life's journey and experiences that is captured in this poetry. It is phenomenal. But join us on January the 21st. That's every third Wednesday of every month. We have our book club. But I also want to share with you that we have some workshops coming up. So for your inspired journey, we have a monthly webinar that is the second Sunday of every month. So we'll kick that off in February for the second Sunday, but this month we're doing a special workshop online called How to Get and Keep Your Man. So some of the insights that you gained today, but some specifics for you in particular. You get to kind of bounce some of those ideas. You get to share some of the tools that you're going to need when you are in the mindset of being a good mate and having a good mate. Let me help you know where the good men are. Let me help you pull that out of the man that you're already with. Okay, and so we're doing that Sunday, January 25th. Again, that's online. We'll have that information available to you on my website, and we'll have that information available to you during our podcast throughout the month. And then Friday, February 6th starts our Secret to Sacred learning series. This is where you can get a lot of that insight on that inner work that you need to do or that you have started to do. This is very deep insight. This is about the physical and spiritual, that balance that we talked about. When you heal one, how you heal the other, and really recognizing who you are and your sacred feminine power. Allow that to be a part of your new way of being, this next chapter living. Unleash your sacred feminine and really see the power that you really have. So we are thankful that you joined us this week. We're thankful for the people who called in and shared their messages and your thoughts. Keep them coming. You can still share that information even after the show. You can rewatch this and share this information. This is tools. These are lessons. These are insights for your journey. And we welcome you every Friday at 12 noon to be a part of it, and even join us on my YouTube page. That is Dr. Hetheru, Personal Change Coach. Just Google me and it will lead you to my podcast and our other episodes. So get your tools. Pick one of us. We are here for both. We are here for all. Relationship First Aid, Your Inspired Journey, Lessons for the Journey. We are here for you. Let's stay clear. Take good care.